Alright gamers, my name is KarQ. Welcome to Season 13 of Overwatch 2. There is no new hero, unfortunately, because we just had Juno, right? But there is a lot of systemic changes cooking in the patch notes today, like Scoreboard mic sliders, finally, and reworks to a bunch of older maps, like look, there's an elevator on Dorado now. There's actually a lot more that I'll be covering. There's complete timestamps below, so let's begin with the balance changes first, as always. Well, the first thing they're doing this season is that when you swap your hero, it hides your selection on the enemy's scoreboard for 15 seconds. The devs comment that this change adds a more friction to counterswapping, especially in the extreme case where two players on opposite teams are both sitting in spawn with the scoreboard open and rapidly switch their heroes in response to each other's choice. Alright, for tanks, we have Mauga first. The incendiary chain gun ignite damage over time duration is increased from 3 to 4 seconds. The devs comment that increasing the duration of Mauga's burn effect will help better reward going for these smaller, harder to hit targets. For Ramattra, the pummel is going to be changed quite a bit. It no longer pierces barriers, so rejoice Rhyme players, but it now deals 2.5x more damage to barriers instead. So that means it will deal 162 damage per punch on a Ram shield, on a Ryan shield, on a Sig shield, etc. The devs comment that Ramattra's pummel projectiles passing through barriers was a source of frustration for players trying to protect themselves or their allies. With these changes enabling Ram to deal critical damage to barriers, he will still be a valuable hero choice against barrier mechanics, but won't immediately apply damage to players on the other side. For Reinhardt, his barrier's health is going to be reduced from 1600 to 1500. The devs comment that this is just some fine tuning for the barrier health and regeneration rate, as it had become slightly too tough to break through. Interesting they say that when they change Ram, but onto the DPSs. Hanzo's base health is going to increase from 225 to 250. The devs comment that we are reverting Hanzo back to his previous health now that it's possible to take out an opposing Hanzo with a well-aimed headshot thanks to the weapon damage changes. For Sojourn, they are no longer allowing her to retain 25 energy as a minimum cap, but instead the time before degeneration overall begins is increased from 7 to 12 seconds. Now, the reason they're doing this is probably because Disruptor Shot's damage per second is going to go up from 60 to 80, and it now converts 25% of that damage done to enemy players as railgun energy. The devs comment that these railgun changes swap out the 25 minimum energy it decays to for a longer time before it begins to degenerate, which alleviates some of the pressure to quickly use the secondary fire. Disruptor Shot is getting a damage increase to help its effectiveness as an area denial tool, and along with an additional utility through generating a small amount of railgun energy to make it more broadly useful. Alright, people complain about Sombra enough and they're going to rework her again slightly. Let's start with her stealth. It's no longer a passive ability, and it now only activates by using your translocator. It has a 5-second duration, so it's not unlimited stealth anymore. 5 seconds only. There is a stealth timer around the reticle for the Sombra players, and they remove the ability icon so you don't get confused. Taking damage now reveals Sombra for 1 second instead of ending stealth. So that 5-second stealth will always be active for those 5 seconds. Maybe you get kicked out for a second, but it doesn't like completely cancel it. Now let's go to the hack. The hack no longer ends your stealth again, but it does reveal Sombra temporarily. The hacked ability lockout effect, like the silencing hack effect, is nerfed from 1.5 to 1 second. The EMP duration is unchanged, by the way. And the Bob hacked stun duration is reduced from 10 to 3 seconds in that specific matchup. So that's actually kind of a nerf. The translocator itself has its cooldown increased from 5 to 7 seconds, and the EMP ultimate cost is going to be increased by 12%. So since they removed stealth as the passive, Opportunist, her old passive back in the day, is now re-added back into the game. This is the passive that allows you to see critically injured enemies through walls. It also increases Sombra's damage versus a hack target by 20%. The devs comment that this is a significant change to Sombra's playstyle in the hopes of making her more interactive for the opposing team and shifting some of her power from the utility of stealth and hack into increased lethality. Stealth having a limited duration less than the translocator cooldown is intended to create brief windows of vulnerability. It still enables Sombra to cross through dangerous areas unseen, but to really hang around the enemy backline will require moving from cover to cover, similar to other flanking heroes. No longer having the stealth movement speed removed upon taking damage also enhances its usefulness as an escape tool. For the supports, we have Baptiste first. The Biotic Launcher primary fire recoil is reduced by 30%. What a buff. The devs comment that this change is aimed at reducing the fatigue resulting from controlling the recoil over long periods of play, more than trying to add power to Baptiste's primary fire. For Brig, the repair pack cooldown is increased from 5 to 5.5 seconds, a very minor nerf. The devs comment that Brig's healing output over the course of a match is quite high, so this is just a slight adjustment to help bring that in line. Finally, for Juno's Medi Blaster, the fall-off range is reduced from 30 to 50 meters to 20 to 35 meters. That is a major nerf. That means your healing and your damage is nerfed at mid to long ranges. You have to play closer and riskier instead of playing safe in the far back line. The healing per projectile is also reduced from 6.5 to 6. The devs comment that Juno's healing output is too high for how much mobility she possesses, so we're shortening her fall-off range to increase the importance of positioning well with her mobility abilities. Alright, let's look at the map changes, where 4 of them have been updated. Let's begin with Dorado. The first point, the starting high ground buildings have been changed. There's an elevator now on the red building to make it more accessible for attackers, and you can see the yellow building is now closed off with this roof. The back flank route here has some minor adjustments to kind of help the attackers, like moving this health pack back and this whole staircase pathing. On the point itself, the market stalls here have opened up for a little change of scenery and sight lines. Now for the second point courthouse, or the church as everyone calls it, there's a massive staircase now added on this side to finally make it easier for attackers to access the high ground, and there's an additional entrance to the building itself. Taking a look at it from this angle near the checkpoint, there are some additional pieces of cover added for defenders here, and a window closed in the courthouse. For the third point, the door has opened up and moved back a little bit with a piece of cover there and on the ground on the main path. Alright, moving on to Havana first point, they have a brand new exit for attackers here to prevent spawn camping pressure, and the big change here is a complete removal of one of the windows here to reduce the sniping pressure. For Havana second point, they closed the middle and opened the 2 walls here to the mega health pack outside, and then near the checkpoint area, this section got completely reworked as you can see. Here's another angle. For the third point, the attacker's spawn interior has changed, along with an additional attacker exit that goes back into the end of the second point to kind of help with the spawn camping again. It's hard to tell early in this footage without playing the map, but they say in the notes that the sight lines from the common sniper spot to the main route have been nerfed. For the biggest change though, there's this back flank around the fortress that is opened up with an additional hole for like vertical heroes or wall climbers, and there's just bigger spacing overall around the entrance here. Like this wall is a little bit longer so you can't like tuck in here as a defender and permanently contest the payload. Alright, Circuit Royale. First, a brand new attacker spawn door is up here to stop the defenders from executing like a top spawn camp strat that some of the pros did actually a few times. The first staircase ramp here has been removed and an additional door has been added. On this side, there's a brand new entrance to the hotel building to give attackers a new high ground angle away from the main sniper sight lines. On the second point, the hill high ground has been reduced a bit, and there's a little bit of cover with the extra barricades here. But more importantly, there's a new flank option with this building opening up to encourage players to actually use this part of the map more often. On the third section, the back pool flank on the high ground here has been opened up a lot more with much bigger pathing and spacing along with a little piece of cover. On the inside, the archway is opened up a lot. There's an additional door here that's actually a defender spawn, but can double as an attacker room for a piece of cover. And the pink room is actually pink, with the wall and the door opening up a little bit on this end here. Moving on to Numbani, the first thing you'll notice is that the initial attacker spawn has been moved a lot closer to the first point to kind of reduce the run back times. Let's face it, no one really used this part of the map anyways. All right, moving on to point A, this section here has been reworked to like a jump puzzle and an open staircase around the backside. When you actually fly through the inside, it's a low to high round staircase, which is a completely different feel and look back here. Wow. For Numbani's second point, the iconic green bust has actually moved back a little bit to kind of change the sight lines. And near the end of the checkpoint, this section has changed into a staircase, so you can access this high ground a little bit easier as a flanker. And if we switch to the fly-through camera from the mega health pack room on the third point and go backwards, you can kind of see how it's all connected. Near the end of the third checkpoint, the biggest change is the spawn room for the defenders being moved up so that you're immune to damage here and the attackers can't like go inside and camp the little room. All right, one more map update that's not one of the reworks is Clash. They're changing it quite a bit. I don't have any footage here, so I'm just going to read you the patch notes here. The capture time on the final objective points A and E now increases for attackers as segments get secured consecutively from 1.11 to 0.7 to 1.1 to 1.4x speed. This means the first segment is easier, but consecutive ones are harder. The defenders now respawn instantly as the first segment and the second segment get secured instead of when the previous objectives B or D, like the ones before it, get captured. The unlock time for the final objective A and E has been increased from 25 seconds to 27.5 seconds, so you have a little bit more time to set up. And the decay rate on the final objective point A and E, if no one's on it, has been doubled for attackers to not lose their progress as quickly when stepping off the point. The capture time for defenders on objectives point B and D has been increased by 10% to give attackers more opportunities to attack the point. All right, that was definitely a mouthful, so let's read the dev comments to kind of see where their headspace is at. So the devs say they wanted to reduce the number of one-sided stomps occurring in Clash. They also wanted to address the difficulty of securing at least one segment of the final objective as attackers. They tweaked the capture time for the defending team to make the fight for objectives point B and D a little bit more favorable for the attackers. Let's move on to the general updates. A big system change here with the interactive scoreboard. In short, there's mic volume sliders. You can adjust your own mic volume on it. You can report other players. You can join or leave your team or group voice chat on the scoreboard. You can mute people. You can mute text chat. For matchmaking updates, let me paraphrase for you. They've reduced queue times for wide matches and competitive, so your bronze and diamond friends can queue a little bit quicker. Roll delta has been tuned and tightened with a priority for tank rolls. And for the high-level community, the effects of MMR decay, winning trend, losing trend, and calibration have been reduced, and the matchmaker now takes into account the benefits of grouping when constructing matches, so duos, trios versus solos, again for the higher ranks only. Speaking of the high-level community, the requirements to now appear on the top 500 leaderboard have changed. The wins per season has been reduced from 50 to 25, but the season competitor challenge, which is 750 lifetime wins in competitive play, is now required overall to be eligible for any top 500 leaderboard. So this should reduce the amount of like rank campers and alternate or smurf accounts taking up leaderboard slots. For game modes, we have Halloween Terror 2024, we have Junkenstein's Revenge yet again, Wrath of the Bride, but a new one called Junkenstein's Lab, where you can enhance your heroes with talent cards or talent trees, so you get like the triple Moira orbs or like the Rhine Fire Strike that leaves lava on the ground, as you can see in the trailer. That looks pretty cool. For the Hero Mastery mode, we have Cassidy and Brig added to the roster starting on October 31st. We've got the Spellbinders theme with the Widow Mythic skins, a bunch of shop skins, and of course the Overwatch 2 and My Hero Academia collaboration. If you love the anime, here's a couple of the skins that they have for it. That's about it for the KarQ summarized patch notes version. You can read the full notes in the description below, linked down there, and enjoy the season beginning Tuesday, October 15th.